everyone. In this video we're going to cover the second part of Nicho Sai. So I've already covered in quite a lot of detail the very first section and each of the movements that's found within that. So we're going to pick up where we left off, having just done Nihon Ski, and go into the next section. Okay. So from this position, quite commonly what you see is an action of just simply dropping back with the sai, some form of preparation which varies considerably, and we'll talk about that in a second, an action of coming up and blocking towards the head in one manner or another, and then a double morote strike, a double morote strike, and then quite often just two punches or a prep movement first and then coming through again. So that's the section that we're talking about. So details. First of all, after I've done my ski that comes immediately before this, it's really important that I don't lose my zanshin. And so what I don't want to do is drop the side back without creating some form of barrier between me and my opponent. So it's important from this position that what I'm going to do is take the weight into my left ankle. So as I do that, I'm going to bring the sai forward. So the sai point towards my opponent to create a direct barrier. If my opponent was to walk forward at this point, he'd be walking straight onto the sai. That allows me to bring my weight back into my left foot. The right foot comes in, so the sai is still in front of me this whole time. Then as I drop back, then the sai come back down and come out. Most people will emphasise a clean line through the shoulder all the way down to the floor here before then preparing for the next movement. So if I do it again from a different angle, you'll see from here, one, and then back. Now, a couple of things. It's important when you do this that this doesn't become an overly aggressive movement. It isn't this. So you're bringing the sai from underneath, okay? And there should be no prep, so it shouldn't be that the arms swing. It should just be that as I transition my weight, the sai naturally, so I'm just adjusting my back foot, kind of taking my weight into my back foot as I drop back, and I control that movement as I come down. Now from that position where we brought both sai down, then we get into the prep phase. Now there's lots of variations of this that you will see of whole different purposes. The method that I prefer and preference means that my backhand is always pointing directly towards my opponent. As much as there are methods where we conceal the sai from our opponent, we create all methods of tangles and so on and prep, and then reveal the sai seemingly in the next movement. This is not my preference. The reason simply is because I'm creating unnecessary exposure towards my opponent. My opponent probably knows I've got sai. If my opponent doesn't know that I've got sai, well, you know, then maybe. But if this follows the previous movements, then he does know I've got sai. So I've just gone like this and I've just shown him. So concealing them to then come back in and do a head block like so is novel, but not for me. So my backhand instead has to make sure that the tip starts to, or is always pointing toward my opponent. So I don't want this, okay? Now one of the issues that we have is that as the block comes, is that you want to make sure that the block comes up immediately. And in this kata, we don't just sort of typically bring it forward, although some people will practice it that way. Instead what we do is we use the sai, so we want to come tip to tip. Okay, that's usually what the preparation is. It's here, so as the block comes in, the right hand slides in to support the left hand. So in the actual action of the block, what happens is the left hand becomes the initial covering hand, and the right hand becomes the power hand that drives through and reinforces. But the vast majority of the block and the subsequent cover is actually all done with my left hand. So the purpose of the right hand is to reinforce, support, and then continue through on the attack. So as I have settled down, still pointing toward my opponent, I want to slightly turn my hip so that my hip has got power to come in. But as I bring the sai back, I want to keep the tip pointing towards my opponent's throat. Okay, so I personally don't preference this. There isn't anything wrong with it as long as you can rationalise the explanation for yourself and in your own dojo. But my personal preference, be it from the front, would be that I come to this position so that the just looking for the tips to make contact, but the tip to still be pointing forward. So if my opponent attacks at this point, I've still got the thrust like imminently. Then from there, as soon as the tips have touched, then it's an easy thing for me to slide the right side up and in. And for this action, I don't block completely square. I block in Sanshindachi, coming up on a 45. So if I hold the side there, I'm here. So I block through, in, and pull, so that I have a complete action of the block. I don't just go and stop and just brace into my shoulders. I'm coming off the line. So I'm here and then to there. So from this position, come one, and then slide up into that posture there. This is above my head. Be careful of having this too low. Quite often people bring it to here, and then just sort of push across. You must make sure this is all the way above your head, in, and the elbow is in to support. Don't have your elbows like this. Mechanically, that's quite weak. From here, we then take the left side, pushing the bow or the other weapon, whatever it may be, out of the way. So we're here, and then both weapons stay in front of me. What I don't want to do is get into this kind of habit and then throwing them forward. So we come from here, 1, 2, and then through. So we're doing morote. Notice the tips are both slightly in. So I'm not striking like this, but I transmit the power straight all the way down to my wrists, so they come all the way in. Then from there, we gather both sides, pull in, and then double. Okay, and this is usually chudan height, both slightly off center, one to the liver, one to the spleen. From here, we push out, okay, to move the arm in application as a prep, to prime the punch. And you'll notice that as I do this, my hip is preparing off my back. Then extend through the front foot, and we do Nihon ski. This is before we then turn left and go into the next section. So from where we began this initial section, we come through and back, making sure that you've got good posture, good stance, rooted in shikodachi. Tips touch, but backhand remains forward. Come up, offset with that left hand. So this is pulling into the bow at this point. Forward, make sure the tips are in, pull, sink, push out, prime the hip, and then release, making sure that you sink and apply all of the points that we discussed about the ski, the punch, from the first video, about application of weight and pressure through the last part of your finger, the tightness of the forearm, the off-centering, the action of the hip, remaining square. All of those points still need to be incorporated. One more time. So from here, so we come down. This is slow, remember, so in the kata this is, and then we come fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So that is the second phase, second part of Nicho Sai. So we will then, in the next video, move on to the third section and look at the details of that. As always, if you have questions about any of the bits covered in this section, please put them in the comments below. Hope you found the video useful. As always, stay safe. See you in the next video.